Hello, dear viewers. You are on the channel where the scariest and most mysterious stories come to life. True events, dark legends, and fictional tales that will send shivers even down the bravest spine. Every story here is a journey beyond the ordinary. If you enjoy fear and the unknown, subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to leave a like so you never miss a single story.
Today I will tell you a story that has haunted me for decades. This is not just a tale, it is the truth about what happened in Black Hollow, a place where shadows hide secrets no one dares to speak of. Don't forget to subscribe and hit like. Stories like this must be remembered, so the past does not repeat its darkest mistakes. He remembered the first time he heard about Black Hollow, a remote valley shrouded in mist and whispered legends in his hometown. His name was Daniel, a curious young man drawn to mysteries and the unknown, eager to uncover truths hidden by time. He had always been fascinated by the stories of people disappearing without a trace in the dense forests surrounding Black Hollow. One summer, driven by restless curiosity, he decided to explore the valley, despite warnings from locals about strange happenings. He packed his gear, told no one of his plans, and set off early in the morning, the sun barely rising over the hills. He walked for hours through thick underbrush, the silence broken only by the crunch of leaves beneath his boots. He noticed how the trees grew twisted and gnarled as he ventured deeper, their branches clawing at the gray sky. He felt a chill despite the warm air, as if unseen eyes were watching him from the shadows. He reached a small clearing where the ground was strangely bare, and the air felt heavy, almost suffocating. He set up camp there, lighting a fire, but the flames flickered unnaturally, casting eerie shapes on the surrounding trees. That night, he heard whispers carried on the wind, voices too faint to understand but filled with sorrow and warning. He tried to sleep, but shadows seemed to move just beyond the firelight, and the feeling of being watched grew stronger. At dawn, he found strange symbols carved into the bark of nearby trees, unfamiliar and unsettling. He took pictures, hoping to study them later, but a deep unease settled in his chest, urging him to leave. As he packed, he heard footsteps approaching, but when he looked up, no one was there. He shrugged it off as nerves and continued his hike, following a narrow path that twisted through the forest. The path led him to an old, abandoned cabin, its windows broken and door hanging ajar. Inside, dust covered everything, but he found a journal on a table, its pages yellowed with age. The journal belonged to someone named Elias, who had lived there decades ago and wrote about strange occurrences in Black Hollow. Elias described hearing voices, seeing figures in the mist, and feeling a presence that watched him day and night. Daniel read about Elias's fear growing until one day he vanished without a trace, leaving the journal behind. Suddenly, Daniel heard a low growl outside and saw a pair of glowing eyes staring at him through the broken window. He froze, heart pounding, then grabbed his backpack and ran out, not daring to look back. The forest seemed to close in around him as he fled, branches scratching his face and clothes. He reached the clearing again, but the symbols on the trees now glowed faintly, pulsing with an unnatural light. He felt a cold hand brush his shoulder, but when he spun around, no one was there. Panic surged through him, and he sprinted toward where he thought the trail began, but the forest had changed. Paths twisted and turned impossibly, leading him deeper into darkness, as if the woods themselves were alive. He called out for help, but his voice was swallowed by the thick fog that rolled in. He stumbled over roots and rocks, desperate to find a way out, but the forest resisted his every step. At one point, he saw a figure in white standing between the trees, motionless, watching him. He tried to approach, but the figure vanished like smoke, leaving only silence behind. Exhausted and terrified, he collapsed near a stream, the water cold and clear but offering no comfort. He heard whispers again, this time clearer, voices pleading, warning, crying for release. He realized these were the lost souls of Black Hollow, trapped by some ancient curse or tragedy. He vowed to escape and tell their story, to warn others not to enter the valley. As night fell, the forest grew colder, and strange lights flickered among the trees like will-o'-the-wisps. He wrapped himself in his jacket, trying to stay awake, but sleep pulled him under despite his fear. In his dreams, he saw Elias and other lost souls, reaching out, begging for help he could not give. He woke suddenly to silence, the fire long dead, and the stars hidden behind thick clouds. He decided to follow the stream, hoping it would lead him out of the forest. Hours passed, and the terrain grew rougher, the trees denser, and his hope thinner. He heard footsteps behind him, slow and deliberate, but when he turned, no one was there. His breath came in ragged gasps as he pushed forward, the weight of unseen eyes pressing down on him. He reached a stone altar covered in moss, with more of the strange symbols etched into its surface. He felt a surge of energy from the altar, a pull that both terrified and fascinated him. He knew he had to leave, but something held him there, whispering promises of answers and secrets. Suddenly, the ground trembled, and a low rumble echoed through the valley, shaking the trees. He ran blindly as the forest seemed to shift and change around him, paths disappearing and reappearing. He tripped and fell into a hidden pit, darkness swallowing him whole. He landed hard, scraping his arms and legs, but he was alive, trapped, but alive. He called out, hoping someone would hear, but only silence answered back. Hours passed, and he felt the cold seep into his bones, the loneliness crushing his spirit. He thought of his family, his friends, and the life he might never return to. He promised himself he would survive, that this nightmare would not be his end. He searched the pit for a way out, climbing rocks and roots, his hands bleeding. Finally, he found a narrow opening and squeezed through, emerging into the pale light of dawn. He stumbled into a clearing where searchers had gathered, their faces filled with relief and disbelief. He was taken home, but the memories of Black Hollow never left him. He knew the valley held secrets that might never be fully understood, and that some things are better left alone. He shared his story to warn others, hoping to prevent more disappearances. He urged respect for the unknown and caution in the face of nature's mysteries. He never returned to Black Hollow, but the shadows of that place followed him always. He often wondered about Elias and the others, hoping they found peace beyond the mist. He believed that remembering their stories kept their spirits alive and honored their suffering. Until next time, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and never forget the places where darkness still lingers.